It's very exciting. I'm excited. I'm very excited. I'll tell you why. I actually haven't always been able to say I was excited. All right, when I was in middle school and going through sex ed, the gym teacher, he took all the boys into a classroom, which I know sounds really creepy today. I know that sounds really weird. And actually in the 70s, it was pretty creepy back then too. But we didn't sweat it back then. Like, I think if I came home and I was like, told my mom that like the gym teacher took all the boys into this classroom and was talking about sex, I think she would have just been like, did you get a C? I think she'd be happy with that. Did you get a C? And so he took all the boys into the classroom, and he's just like, and then the female gym teacher took all the girls into a classroom where I can only assume that they just discussed like, pillow fights and never shitting, I guess, right? I will not believe anything other than that, by the way. Gym teacher takes all the boys in the classroom. He's just sort of walking through the mechanics of sex. And he says, well, when a man gets excited, he gets an erection, and so on and so forth. So the man, he should have said aroused, but he said excited. So from that day forward, for like 10 years, every time I was out with my parents, and they'd be like, hey, Larry, you excited? I'd be like, no, I'm not excited. I'm not a weirdo. Visiting grandma in the nursing home, I'm not excited. I like that joke. I like that bit. It's pretty funny. Here's the funniest part of that bit. The funniest part of that bit is that there's not one word of that that's not 100% true. That's the funniest part of that. That's right. And that was really, the people I felt worst about for those formative years were my parents, my poor parents, because they just must have been like, what is wrong with Larry? He's never excited about anything. He never admits it. And he refuses to play with his erector set. I dig an audience that knows what an erector set is. I went to a high school reunion not too long ago, and I couldn't do what everybody does. Like, I went to my reunion, I picked up right where I left off with everybody. Like, I can't pick up right where I left off with everybody because I no longer sell pot. That's true. Hey, you know who hates that joke? My mother hates that joke a lot. She hates it. She hates any stories, bits, jokes about my days when I used to sell drugs. She just hates it more than anything. But you know what she didn't hate? Not having to pay for my college. She didn't hate that at all. She got pretty permissive. I think she would have been cool with me doing a little jail time over that, as long as they didn't have to skip a trip to Boca. I think she'd be perfectly happy. Yeah, I know where she was coming from. She was like protecting me from my father. I know she wouldn't want my dad to know that world I was living in. It was kind of a dark world. I don't know if she really got him, though, because I think on the one hand, my dad, finding all that out, would have been like furiously angry that I was involved with drugs. On the other hand, super proud that I wasn't paying retail. Because we're Jews. We're Jews. I'm a Jew. Did I mention that? Do you not notice I am a Jewish person? Are there any other Jews in the audience? Clap. Don't raise your hand. Clap if you're a Jew. You can freely do that here. You're in a safe space. All right, we got a few. Last week there was only a couple. It was kind of scary. That's normally like I work in Wakanda and I do a show and I'm just like, I say, any Jews, dead silence, and then I just allow everyone just to assume I am Italian for the rest of the show, which really cuts down on the ass kickings. And it's because it's tough to be a Jewish person now because of all the overt hate that's out, right? We're just in this world of hate now. And I know it seems like so long ago that there were like Nazis and white supremacists just like marching in the streets with torches. We all remember that. And I'm just going to say something as a Jewish person. I know some Jews here. I don't care what anybody else thinks about this opinion, but as a Jew, I don't care for Nazis. Neo or classic. Not a fan of either flavor. Don't like them. They're in the streets and they're just like marching and they're just saying, you know what they were chanting? Jews will not replace us, which is a horribly ugly thing to say. And I'm thinking like, I'm not going to replace any of those guys because I don't want to live in a trailer. That's it's not even ideology. It's just minimal standard of living. And I was getting so incensed by the violence and the ugliness. I just look at my wife and I'm just like, if these guys are going to get all anti-Semitic about all this stuff, then us Jews should raise their interest rates. Heartier laugh from the non-Jews, yes. But yeah, that wouldn't even work because you know that they're renting. Those Nazis are renting. They don't own because they're socialists. They're Nazis. So I mentioned my dad, and he actually died about 5 years ago. Still kind of an open wound. He and I were not close. We didn't do a lot of father and son things together, but I didn't think about my dad a lot when he was alive. I think about my dad every day now when I'm in the backyard picking up my dog's shit. That's perfect. You should not. That is not something to laugh at because it's kind of dark. But here's the context, and then I'll get out of here. My entire life, my father relentlessly told this story about how when I was a baby, he stepped in my shit. Now it's kind of an adorable father and son story to tell throughout your life until you wonder why they made me shit in the yard. Why would they make me do that? I just want to acknowledge, just what we're doing here. We're talking about recovery and all that. I actually I really appreciate doing comedy in a formal theater. I do a lot of comedy in bars and clubs and private events where alcohol is like a gigantic presence, which is a little weird for me because I don't drink anymore. I actually haven't had a drink of alcohol in like 6.5 years, almost 7. All right, thank you. Applaud my personality disorder. I will take that. I keep adding on to that bit, where I'll tell that story and it'll be like, it started at like I haven't had a drink in 3 years, 4 years, 5.5, 6, 6.5. One day you'll see me like a year from now and I'll be like, I haven't had a drink in 1.5 years, and you'll be like, oh, you didn't make it. Okay. I noticed some things when I stopped drinking. The first thing I noticed when I stopped drinking was that people are really friggin' boring when I'm sober. That's true. Probably says more about me, true nonetheless. They also asked me some really dumb questions. And my favorite dumb question from people, I mention I'm not drinking anymore, and they say, even beer? It's like, yeah, even that ubiquitous alcoholic beverage beer falls under that umbrella. I don't actually know the other answer to that question. It's like, you know what? No, I stopped drinking gin. I just drink 5 times more beer now. That's not right. So it's been a while. It's been almost 7 years. Probably the fall will be 7 years. And but when I was much younger, back when George Bush was president, the first George Bush was president, exactly, old enough to know there were 2. Some of the young kids don't know there were 2. I had to stop doing a lot of things, a lot of behaviors, a lot of consumption, so that I would not die and that I could be here today to entertain you. So you're welcome to my effort. But it has been a really long time, and I have come so far. I'm such a different person that some people, they don't believe that I used to drop acid all the time. That's true. And to those people who don't believe me, I say, hey, if you don't believe me, just ask this wizard that's been following me around for 30 years. It's always a wizard, by the way. No one ever hallucinates an accountant in khaki pants. It's always don't laugh, he's right behind me. You'll anger him. All right.